Ready to take leaders' questions under Standing Order 36. I call Deputy Pearse Doherty, please.
Gormaigad, I can cóirle agus tíse ní doubt be na ggóil géirchim cosas maralta ag chomant ní smó chaili go dtí ponche na bachtanachta agus ní ribrí an méide a deantaigh an rialtas go dtí seo tá rudaí a gáil óáil go hálc agus a daoine ag strathailt chun airí riachtainna ag tá sé an nám de cén eisna séigeanta a chur is airigad a rás a pócaí greagaí na tíre seo. Taoiseach, the soaring cost of living now has many workers and families at breaking point. On radio this morning, we heard of testimonies from people who are facing heartbreaking choices to make it to the end of the week. We heard about families having to go without breakfast, children going without cereal. We heard of a mother talk of her child saying that he has a hole in his shoe and having to tell him that he'll have to wait for another pair. Parents spoke of the pressure they feel when their child comes home and tells them that they're going on a school tour. Taoiseach, a child going on a school tour shouldn't be a household crisis, but it is for too many. But this is now the hard experience of so many people. The cost of living crisis is pushing more and more people to the edge of poverty. Food poverty is now a feature of life for an ever-growing number of children. The growing need for food banks is a stark testament to this reality right across the state. A food bank in the Midlands, Taoiseach, is now feeding up to 5,000 people, and they expect that figure to rise to 15,000 over the next period. Those who never thought that they would need such help are now standing in queues waiting to be fed by charities. And people are working long hours, and the soaring costs mean that they simply can't get by. It is soul-destroying, Taoiseach. As families keep an eye to every euro they spend, yesterday you told them to prepare for a rocky road ahead, to be ready for a new era of high fuel and energy costs. Now this is astonishing because workers and families have been walking the rocky road of extortionate fuel and energy costs for the best part of a year now. To tell people, as you did, who are already struggling to pay their bills that they will have to tighten their belts even further is painfully out of touch, while at the same time ruling out from you as Taoiseach further government action until October at the very earliest. Taoiseach, does this government understand the pressure that real families and workers are under right across the state? We're talking about households who have to deal with rip-off rents, food prices that are increasing sharply, big energy bills and childcare fees that cost a second mortgage for many. People can't catch their breath, they can't catch a break. Many are having to choose between having lunch or filling the car to go to work, and now prices at the pumps are shooting up once again. Taoiseach, the government's approach to this crisis has failed. It's been piecemeal, it's been slow, it's been sluggish, and your measures haven't made a dent in the costs that people face. So now is the time, Taoiseach, now is the time for a real and comprehensive plan of action. We need a mini budget right now aimed at getting costs down right across the board. There is room within the public finances for the government to act, and it's not just me and Sinn Féin saying that. That is also the view of the Fiscal Advisory Council and also the view of the Central Bank. So you need to listen. You need to listen to what families have been saying on Morning Ireland this morning, families that are coming to all of our constituency office. They are telling you loud and clear they cannot hang on for another 5 months. The Taoiseach and your government need to understand where people are at. You need to do what's necessary and bring forward a mini budget to deal with this crisis.
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach, please.
On féin agus do gachéine sa tig se ná an íarna hort don tír go thomláin. Sinna rud is táchtaí an íarna ancient do muinte na tír. Agus bheith cantalo. Agus sinna dhéana It shouldn't be astonishing, as you have said, to tell the truth. And what I said yesterday was telling the truth about a new era of an increase in pricing around fossil fuels. And the reason for that is that this week we will mark the grim milestone of 100 days since Russia's unjustified, illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine. And that invasion has brought untold misery, death and human suffering. Almost 6 million Ukrainian people, 6 million, half of them children, have been put on the road, have had to flee their country and forced to try and find sanctuary where they can get it, equivalent to the entire population of this country. And that invasion has brought, that suffering, but it also has brought extraordinary economic cost and disruption with it. No, you didn't reference it at all in your contribution, which I think is wrong out of you not to mention it, because we need to be honest with people. This war is having a very terrible impact on the world, primarily in terms of the deaths of so many Ukrainians and the terrible trauma that they're experiencing, but also bringing about huge economic cost and disruption, triggering a massive spike in the cost of energy, and with a huge increase in the cost of a vast range of other materials, affecting food, agriculture, in terms of fertilizer and so on, which all input into our society and economic system. And also, most devastating of all, it is causing and will cause a major security crisis, food security crisis, sorry. And yesterday we spoke to the President, the European Union did, of the African Union, who are extremely concerned about the impacts of this war on famine, or the prospects of creating a really significant famine. Now, the Russian ambassador, the Russian president, would have us all believe that this is the fault of Western governments. And we need to be careful that we don't fall into the Putin trap of laying all the blame domestically, because he wants Western states to buckle under the pressure that he deliberately and premeditatively created. Putin wanted to create an energy crisis. He wants to create a food crisis. And he wanted to create a migration crisis. All part of the one immoral and unjustifiable war. And that is why we had very significant manifestation of that in terms of high energy prices for our people, and putting a lot of people under pressure. I don't dispute that. People are under a lot of pressure because of this, because of the deliberate policies of the Putin regime. And to be fair to the Irish people, they have responded magnificently in terms of how they've brought in and worked with, through communities and volunteerism, with Ukrainians across the country. Now, you said earlier that the government has been slow and tardy. It hasn't, actually. It's allocated, since last October, $2.5 billion to cost of living issues in terms of cutting taxes, in terms of increasing welfare rates. We have increased the fuel allowance rate, for example, by about 55%, a €404 increase from 21 to 22. We've reduced excise duty on petrol, diesel and green diesel, about €9 and €12 each time people fill their tank. We've reduced VAT and so on. So the government have responded more than you would in a normal budget already to this cost of living crisis, but it is very severe on people. And we need to be,
Time is up now, please.
And we will develop a collective response to deal with it.
Taoiseach, you're not a commentator. We all know the external factors that are pushing up prices. They've been referenced many, many times before. But that doesn't absolve you as Taoiseach, or indeed your government, from acting and doing everything in your power to protect households and families here. Households that are struggling to make it to the end of the week. And you're telling them that they have to tighten their belt, that you as the leader of this government isn't going to intervene in any further single measures until at least October at the very earliest. Now, to me, that is a testament of a Taoiseach and a government who is so far out of touch, you couldn't make it up. Listen to what ordinary people are saying. Forget about what we're saying. Listen to what ordinary people are saying. They are going in their thousands to food banks. They can't put food on the table for many, many houses. They are making serious, difficult choices about going from A to B, getting to work, to a hospital appointment, or feeding their children with a bowl of cereal in the morning. And you stand there and say that you are not going to intervene until another 5 months at the earliest. Taoiseach, we know you can't do everything, but you need to do more. You need to bring forward a mini budget, you need to look at the proposals that we brought forward, and you need to support workers and families in these extraordinary times.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Defend yourself by saying we all know. You didn't reference it once in your original contribution to this House, the cause of this, because your objective is to lay all of the blame on the government, just like the Russian ambassador did yesterday. Exactly, just like the Russian ambassador did yesterday. Blame the government and blame the governments of the day. But the key point is this: we have taken a lot of measures which you ignore and decide not to acknowledge. And I've referenced some of them. We've cut public transport fares by 20%, 50% cut. We've cut fares for young people by 50%. We've lowered the threshold for drug payment scheme to €80 per month, benefiting over 70,000 families. We've brought forward a working family payment budget increase. We abolished inpatient hospital charges for children. We've capped annual rent increases at 2%. And also, we've introduced significant supports for different sectors of the economy affected by these very significant price hauliers, grain farmers, pig farmers and so on, and people who are affected. And in addition to that, we've launched a very significant national retrofitting scheme. But the cutting of tax and the increases in social protection have mattered. Now, we want to now explore with the social partners how we deal with this in a comprehensive strategic way. Because one thing we cannot do, Deputy, which you want to do,
time is up,
you cannot chase inflation away month after month by $1 billion or $2 billion a month. That is not a sustainable pathway.
We're way over time.
What you are proposing is to create even further inflation, over and above what is there, all with a view to pursuing electoral advantage over the crisis that's been caused by the political regime.
Please, Deputy.